Perfect. So, hello everyone, I'm Farooque. We are the Global Shapers Niche Hub community. It's an initiative of the World Economic Forum. Thank you so much for everyone for joining the webinar today. Our topic of discussion is the future of work. And during the webinar, we'll discuss the future outlook of work, emerging trends, and mainly focusing on the upskilling part that are required to survive and generate more opportunities. Let me introduce our honorable speakers for tonight, Cyrille and David. Thank you so much for making this webinar feasible. And just to tell you, they have enormous experience and expertise in diversified fields, both professionally and academically. And I'm sure we'll be able to benefit a lot from their insights. So David, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Nice to meet everyone. Thank you for the invitation. I'm David, part of the Global Shapers Brussels Hub, and currently working at generation.org, which is an NGO launched by McKinsey & Company, aimed at bridging the gap between education and employment for the most vulnerable people. So I'll keep it short.
Cyrille?
Okay. Hello, everybody, and thank you for the invitation to share my views on the future of work. My name is Cyrille Comole-Theveniaud, and I'm the general manager of a consulting company called Who Else, who's dedicated to accompanying startups, medium-sized firms, but also corporations in their digital transformations from a very specific angle, which is the non-technical side. So roughly, I spent 20 years in the B2B marketing and high tech. And I have started my own company 5 years ago when I had a revelations after I did an applicative research with the University of Oxford on the role of emotions when we are dealing with digital transformations. And this is with that angle that I'm accompanying firms. I'm spending half of my time though in the consulting area and half of my time within the education area, where I think my role is to reach what is needed from an educational perspective and a professional point of view, bridge these two worlds so that we make sure that the skills of tomorrow are already there in the business schools, the engineering schools, and the universities. So more or less, this is where I come from.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the introduction. For our audience, let us know in the comment section the city you're coming from and what you're really looking forward to this webinar. And if you have any questions, kindly feel free to post them in the comment sections, and we'll try to take them in the end. So to begin with, as we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic induced lockdowns and related global recessions have led to spikes in unemployment across several key economics. For example, shutting down several businesses, displacing workers from their current job roles, forcing companies to adapt to new measures for survival, like hybrid working models, etc. Adapting to different technologies, for example, Zoom, where we are having the call, etc., etc. And so we'd like to know from your point of view, how is the future of work reshaping, and how companies or industries are adapting towards it? Maybe we, Cyrille?
Yes, I do trust that the pandemic has accelerated that shift towards the new way of working. We have seen a massive digitalization. Of course, remote working, flex office hours, that is a common world. But I have, seen a big change in the way we understand interactions and we understand skills. And what I think that is happening nowadays is just the acceleration of what we have seen over the last 5 years, where we've been working on areas like virtual workplaces, where we just need our login and password to get into an environment of work. where we just need, a camera to be able to discuss. And I do trust that the companies need to carry on the trends of digitalizations with, focus on data, focus on Internet of Things, focus on everything related with a more adapted and automated supply chain. We've seen that accelerated, but we see, I do trust that there are two elements. There's on one side the technology, and the other side the people who are actually the catalyst to these technology. It's not enough, to transform, but at the center of that transformation, the people are there with new skills, not only on data, but also on leadership, be able to foresee what's happening, be more resilient, be continuous learners. We need to change our attitude towards job and towards what the job brings to us and what we bring to the organizations. So just as an introduction, maybe we'll get into a discussion with David.
Yeah, David, your point of view.
Can you pose the question, please?
You want me to rephrase the question?
Yes, please.
Yes, sure. Actually, we'd like to know your point of view. How is the future of work reshaping, or how it is changing, and how companies or industries are adapting towards it?
Thank you. So there are three main changes that I've seen based on the reports that have been coming out there from both the World Economic Forum and large private sector actors like McKinsey and Company and Google. The first one is this, let's say, opportunity, because for many it is an opportunity to do work flexibly, remotely, which I think many of us have been benefited since the start of the pandemic. Of course, this is a privilege because not everybody has this opportunity, but again, for some of us, and again, many probably present in this call, it's been a great blessing to be able to continue our jobs, from the comfort of our homes or from an exotic location. That is also now a possibility. The other big disruption or change brought by the pandemic, which is impacting the future of work, is finally the attention is being brought to the question of mental health at work, which has been long neglected by many companies, both large and small, which now obviously still in it's very at an incipient stage, that companies are trying to change their ways and to change their organizational culture in a way that mental health issues that come up at work, issues like burnout, for instance, or which is a cause of the increased amounts of stress, these are being discussed now more openly. Still, and I don't want to get into too much detail now, maybe later in the call, the way many companies have responded to this mental health crisis was, the first positive was that they, at least they admit that this is an issue. The sort of negative to it is that they still don't know how to react, and many of them have done all sorts of things which are not actually helping. But anyways, mental health at work is the sort of second trend. And last but not least, my favorite trend, or the one that is impacting most of my activities, is the need to reskill people at scale, quickly and at scale, because the speed is of the essence given the speed of disruption. So reskilling is now being conducted both, increasingly more by companies and governments, who will both have an important role to play. And of course, NGOs like the one I work for and civil society at large will also increasingly have to both help people reskill themselves, and also to, in a sense, at an individual level, be more empowered to continuously learn throughout their lifetime. So these would be the main three trends: reskilling, mental health, and remote work.
Excellent insights. I think the mental health itself deserves a separate individual topic of discussion. It's so huge. Coming back to the obviously the opportunities of work flexibility and the skill sets, I'd like to just state out some facts which I've just like you're mentioning about the World Economic Forum's report on the future of jobs 2020. One statistic says that average reskilling needed in France over 1 year is 32.5%, and 88% of the companies want to hire new permanent staff with skill relevant to new technologies. And the report shows a similar trend globally. this depicts how important upskilling is during these difficult times. Uh, and to discuss about this upskilling, I want to ask this question focusing on the students who are seeking for a job, or individuals who have lost their job and have been sitting out for a while and seeking for opportunities, and individuals who are working but might be looking for a change of career, maybe due to some problems in workplace, or the industry is not doing great, and maybe they're looking for new opportunities. So I'd like to know what are the necessary skill sets that will help an individual to gain competitive advantage and will generate more job opportunities for him or her, and how they should prepare for it. So I hope the question is clear. David, would you like to share your thought?
Yeah, thank you, Farooque. So you asked about skill sets, and I would divide the skill sets into two types of groups, or skill clusters, as I like to call them. The first one of them is, including the, let's say, already fairly known types of skills that everybody recommends young people and people in general to acquire, which is soft skills, which I would focus on the four C's: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity, to name just a few of the many that would be relevant. And hard skills, and some would also call them technical or digital skills, in which again I would differentiate between basic digital skills, the skills that we should all acquire or should have acquired by now, which is how to use Office, how to use Zoom, the sort of basic skills that keep us functional even in a pandemic, when we have to do remote work. And the more advanced digital skills would be programming, data analysis, again, skills that not all of us have to acquire. I mean, ideally, we would have bigger portions of the population who knows these skills or who's acquired them. But again, I think passion is key. So if you don't have a passion for it, it's going to be hard to be at an above average level. And then, so these were the, soft and hard skills, what most media recommend and most publications. I like to have another sort of a bonus cluster called the growth mindset cluster, which has been really important and obvious of its importance, especially in the pandemic time. And here I would include skills such as adaptability, flexibility, and very important, grit and perseverance. Grit being the capacity of somebody to bounce back from adversity, and perseverance being the capacity of someone to continue through adversity in the long term. So it's more than just jumping back on one's feet, but actually persevering and continuing making progress on a daily basis. So this growth mindset cluster, it's not, well, the cluster is my invention, but the actual growth mindset concept has been popularized by Carl Dweck, a professor at Stanford University. I just loved the model and adapted it in this cluster of skills that I've put together. And again, growth mindset skills, digital skills, and soft skills are, I think, all equally important in the future of work.
Excellent. Thank you so much for the insight. And I'll get back to you on this. Of course, we have a follow-up question on that. Cyrille, would you like to comment something or share your perspective and insights?
Yes, definitely. I do agree with David. I have noted, words like growth mindset, adaptability, perseverance. I would add the dare. This is something that the older generations do not have, the daring. We have to highlight that there's, in the skill set within an organization, we have a generation gap. We have, the post-war generations, the baby boomers, and the X generations, which do not have the same view of what they need to get within an organization to have a successful career. We have, on the other hand, the Y generations. Inside the Y generations, we have the millennials and the Z generations, which are arriving, and they are nearly up to the age of working, and they don't have the same concept of what is work. On the one hand, we have people with a set of skills, and they want to give that set of skills to the organization, and then they will grow with the organizations. On the other hand, we have these people who are already digitalized. We cannot say to a Y generations, let's do digital transformations, because it doesn't mean nothing for them. They're already digitalized. And they see the job as a, let's say, a flow between what they give and what they receive from the organizations. there's a Gartner, to complement what has been done in the studies from Roland Berger, who's really, a big analyst in the digital transformation. We have the Gartner in 2021, early this year, they've launched a study which says that, and we know that we've been hearing about that for about 10 years, but they say that 30%, and that's for sure, of the jobs of tomorrow in 2030 do not exist today. But that we already know. But what we don't know is that already since the second part of 2020, 50%, so 48 exactly from these Gartner studies, of the organizations worldwide, whatever the size, have decided to go to a job description which is not fixed. That is to say, they want to hire roles, they want to hire skills, and do not give a fixed job. So the resilience, continuous learning, in the moment learning are skills, are part of the skills that the new generations have, but also the X generations who are at the head of the organizations, or at least they are middle managers or top managers, they need to gain. So on the one hand, we have these new generations who are giving, their views, they're giving a new trend to what is learning. They are accelerating the way organizations are using the technology. And on the other hand, we have these generations who are managing the organizations, who needs to catch the train and get used to what are the new technologies. So I would say, yes, as you mentioned, David, we have the technology on the one hand as an enabler, and we have the soft skills on the other hand as a catalyst. But I think in the middle, we really need to have this kind of leadership traits. Farooque, I know you know about it, but Mary Crossland, who's a teacher from the University of Oxford, she's highlighted the 12 dimensions of the new leadership, 12 traits that the leaders have, who are, very successful. And among them, you have the transcendence, and which to me is the most important, which is, what is the leadership legacy that I give to my organization and I give to my life? And that's really different than just being competent, being performant. But it's also, how do I influence around me, my teams, my people, my, when you have roles in transverse, how do I help the organization move forward? And at the same time, having the people around me feel they contribute to the same level as I do, even though I have a different, managerial level. And that's, to me, very important, that leadership traits. And we have leadership lectures in universities, but also in organizations. I have seen, an emerging number of trainings in organizations about managing ambiguities, leadership, what is digital leadership, and these are elements which are very important. You cannot gain leadership. You can be taught, and you can, take insights here and there of what influences what you like to create your own style. So I think what's very important is we dare being ourselves. We dare proposing something new to the organization. We have seen also a rise of continuous learning. In the education, we have LMS, but we also seen a rise of these learning management systems in organizations themselves. Even the smallest organizations, they put in place their own system to identify the skills. We have started 10 years ago with communities of practice, and Microsoft has jumped into that with SharePoint, which was the tool base. But communities of practice is not having SharePoint, it's having people to manage that, animations. And we've seen that traits of people being able to share, be able to learn. And now with the emerging technologies, one of the dimensions is data. I told you about data, big data. And we are able in organizations, in HR, to identify the skills and be able to map competencies, but also influences skills, so that we're able to find out the right profile for the right project. We're thinking of transient skills rather than set of competencies which are set forever. So.
Uh, Absolutely, and it makes sense. The solution, Sahil, what you proposed, definitely makes sense for the organizations and the people who are inside the organization and looking to upskill themselves to keep up with the ever-changing job and adapt themselves. This brings me to one topic which I was reading a few days back, which was related to McKinsey Global Institute reports. And what they have done is they did a lot of obviously research, and they categorized four different kind of skill sets in four categories. Yes. Namely cognitive, which includes critical thinking, communication, mental flexibility, and planning the ways of working, ability to learn, agile thinking, etc., time management. Then another aspect was interpersonal, which was related to role modeling, developing relationship through empathy, humanity, social ability, and team of effectiveness. Another aspect was self-leadership, about, like David mentioned, perseverance, self-control, ability to adapt. And then the last aspect was digital fluency, then about digital literacy, digital ethics. Obviously, that includes software and development and understanding the digital system. Now, Sahil, it was really nice to understand there are two generations, and they perceive digital literacy in two different point of views. Therefore, we need adaptability to understand and to cope with that. Now, the thing is, how can one, adapt to it? It says like we are saying it, but what are the ways, like how they should prepare for it? Uh, would you like to share your insights? Like let's focus on the individuals who want a change of career and who are inside the organization. How they should, prepare for them to have more opportunities in future. Sahil, you want to go? Yeah.
Yes. Just I want to rebound of what you just said. I'm also part of a reflection, let's say, group within which we are thinking of what are human skill and artificial intelligence bringing to organizations. And we've seen there that we need to develop knowledge around, as you mentioned, interpersonal intelligence, general mood, interpersonal, not intrapersonal, situational intelligence, adaptability, anticipation. And that's very important to be an observer. And to be an observer, we need to be curious. And to be curious, we need to be in a psychological safety environment. And that's really linked to the culture of the organization. So rebounding on what you mentioned on the different dimensions, it reminds me of what Goleman has highlighted in '95, and it's still very true. Now I'm following Daniel Goleman still on LinkedIn, and he's updating on a regular basis. He's posted something yesterday about how emotional intelligence changing the rules of the games in organizations, especially for those who are scared about the change. So we have these kind of dimensions about self-awareness and self-control. What I do trust in change, in uncertainty, we have a lot to do with self-awareness, what we're able to do, what we're able to bring, and be honest with us where we need to actually learn. And then engage into a learning process if we want to carry on that career. What I do trust is that, and it's also a notion that I like to use, it's Edgar Schein, who's one of our gurus of organizational culture. He said that when we acknowledge that we need to learn more and we need to change, there is that learning anxiety. That's very true for the X generations who needs to move away from the old path of career towards the new path of career, more digitalized. And that's learning anxiety. Is paralyzing. It's just putting them at a standstill. They don't want to do anything because they're scared to be losing in competency, to be left apart, and even lose their job. But that's not what's happening in digitalizations, where we really accompany the right way. Then when we arrive at, the pandemic has gone from a step further, which is where what Shane calls the anxiety of learning, the survival anxiety. And that survival anxiety says, now I'm going to lose my job if I don't adapt. And that actually helps people move. Not to say we need to have everybody in the survival anxiety, but we need to use, the state of mind to understand what type of training we need to guide there. It's not an individual point of view, but it's also a HR point of view. HR people need to help the people who are working in organizations to get knowledgeable to the new set of skills. And it's okay to lose a bit of what we were doing if our job is changing towards the future. We need to make them sure they understand the vision, where we're going, and understand what they lose to be able to learn more. So that's on the one hand. On the second hand, these people need to be very trustworthy. They need to focus on what they need to learn, not trying to learn everything and at the end be average everywhere. They need to focus on what they like in that new economy, the data economy, whether you want to focus more on artificial intelligence or data, supply chain, robots, automation. The World Economic Forum, has really set the basis of our understanding of the fourth industrial revolution. That's Klaus Schwab, by the way, who's the CEO of the World Economic Forum, who's coined the concept of fourth industrial revolution. And he's clearly in his book, really, I recommend you read the book. It's very easy, and it sets the main trends of the industrial revolutions and what we have to do with it. And what he mentions is, it's not changing only the way we work, but it's changing us, our vision of the world and our contribution. So we need to have, that reflection with HR. We need to embark HR, into our reflection on where I am and where I want to go tomorrow, what I like in this new digital world, and what will make me be different. Be different doesn't mean stand out because I'm better, but it means I'm standing out because I am bringing something complementary to the other. There's an organization called WeShare, which I really love. I have written a paper on the sharing economy with the change leaders, who's most of the alumni of HEC executive masters on change management. And WeShare, I think, have understood how we manage the skills of tomorrow, which is basically, there's always a transient leadership. There's a manager on a project, and that manager will become a project member on another project because they're less knowledgeable. And that flow, brings a lot of energy, a lot of synergies. And I think it's really the way we need to understand the organization tomorrow, having, a give and take between the teams, the heads of the teams, and also the individual contribution.
Yes, I think it's the both. The organizations need to change a bit, and we as individuals or the employees need to adapt that mindset to change along with the organization and meet somewhere in the middle. Exactly, excellent point of view. I'd like to go back to David to understand that, okay, we talked about the people who are employees and looking for job opportunity, change of career, but we would like also to focus on the students who are seeking for a job, or individuals who have been sitting out and who are unemployed, and they are really, in a desperate situation to get hold of something, reskill themselves and look out for opportunities. What are your take that how they should adapt or how they should prepare to cope with this?
It's a very good question and a complex one, because it really depends on the context of each individual, how desperate the situation is. As a condition, it would be, first of all, for governments to have in place safety nets for the citizens who are close to be left behind by the fast advancement of technology and by automation. Safety nets such as the ones prevalent in Scandinavian countries or in Singapore and Switzerland, the top countries in the world for reskilling. They have a big incentive to their population to, first of all, take their time when they're out of a job to reskill themselves, and they give them also learning credits in Singapore to literally fund their education. So there's, first of all, a role that government should play in offering people both a safety net and potentially also reskilling opportunities. Private sector companies as a way to give back, in the communities they displace jobs in, because again, some of the tech companies in particular will displace jobs as a way to increase their productivity and profit margin. So there's actually quite a lot of debate going on in Silicon Valley, but also in Brussels at the EU level about taxing robots or taxing robotic process automation tools. So companies will have to provide for the employees that they fire, and there are already some good practices coming again from these tech companies who, and I don't want to give the name of the company, but there's one of the largest GAFAs, as they call it, one of the largest companies in the world in technology, and before firing employees who are soon to be outdated because of technology, because of robots, they're providing them with a severance package that includes free training in the next 6 months, so the 6 months before they're actually fired, which would hopefully help them qualify in something better than their current employment, something to do with technology ideally, which is a much more sustainable career. So there's definitely this need for companies that that might need to fire people because of their business model, to at least make sure that these people are not completely left behind and that they help them in some way, shape, or form. And there's the last responsibility, which belongs to civil society, to NGOs that like the one I'm working for, to really find ways to provide trainings to people, and at an individual level to look for such trainings, because there's more and more online alternatives now to reskilling initiatives. There's a lot of good courses for almost any subject in the world available on some of these massive open online courses platforms such as Coursera or Khan Academy. So as they say, there's no excuse for not learning nowadays. It's just some people need a bit more motivation than others, but the opportunities are there. So every stakeholder, to sum up, has a role to play, and I think the solution relies, as the World Economic Forum likes to call it, in a multi-stakeholder partnership, without having all these, I would say actually 4 key stakeholders, because academia is also involved there, but I left it outside intention because it's their role to reskill, so that shouldn't change. They just should have updated their ways by now. But these 4 key multi-stakeholder partners, which are governments, companies, NGOs, and civil society and academia, have to work together to face the reskilling revolution that is upon us.
Excellent. It's obviously a multi-stakeholder partnership that needs to provide support to these aspiring candidates. But there are some countries where, not to blame, but governments are not doing that much that they should be doing, and ideally labor laws are not so much dominant or so much advanced like Europe. For example, if you see few Asian countries, for example, like I'm from India, so I can talk about India itself, that we don't have such strong labor laws, and a company can fire any stakeholder whenever they intend to. So in a way, the job security goes away. It's not so stable, and you're not compensated that much. Is there a way or a solution to tackle these kind of challenges?
I think, again, the solutions depend on a country by country basis, given the different contexts. The solution is, I mean, it's like in the commercials, or sorry, in the movies with like publicité. The solution is an organization like Generation, because our model is replicable across 14 countries, and this is exactly what we've been doing. We've been stepping in the situations in which governments, like the one you mentioned, which we're actually working with the Indian government in at least some regions in India, that don't have the capacity or the know-how to reskill people quickly, efficiently, and at scale. We come in with our 7-step methodology. We plug into the workforce development agency of the government. Different countries, different names for this agency, so that's why I call it Workforce Development Agency, very bluntly in a sense. And then we work together with that government to update the skills, first of all, of the civil servants that need to do these trainings and need to implement these programs. And then if need be, we can even go up again at the grassroots level and work with the actual citizens themselves. So the idea, and this is an idea shared by many shapers, not maybe some of, not just the ones here in this call, is not to replicate something which is good. And I think there's a few great initiatives, not just generation across the world, which if we would be replicating them in different contexts, we could have a better chance at tackling this growing problem. So again, you really raised the ball at the at the top of the post for me, but generation, it's one of the options that I think could really help in this situation, which a country cannot do it by itself for different reasons. Then you look for such a provider that can help you upskill your upskilling initiatives.
True. Understandable, definitely. And just to touch on to that point, there are alternate ways of work as well. Like if I can upskill myself to be an entrepreneur or to be a freelancer, that can be an alternative way of working or to earn money. So what do you recommend for those? Like what should be my mindsets? What are the skill sets I should look for? Or is it a viable option to go in this situation as well? Maybe yeah, David, go ahead, and then we'll ask questions from Cyrille as well.
Sure. So we were discussing actually with Cyrille before the call how we are both proponents and supporters of this concept called the gig economy. But of course, the gig economy is at least at its, let's say, upscale level. So people like who are doing gig economy as designers or software engineers, this is obviously a pretty idyllic situation, again, to take advantage of the remote work, and such opportunities abound on platforms such as Upwork or Fiverr. However, the gig economy also includes jobs as delivery and other, drivers or bikers who are, delivering food and groceries to our homes, or taxi drivers, or as they're called, obviously, ride-sharing drivers. And the idea is these jobs are less well paid and they don't have the same benefits. So again, the gig economy is quite splintered between these two sort of upper end and lower end types of jobs. The idea is that this economy is going to grow, so both ends of the gig economy will continue to offer opportunities. And I definitely see a future in which the gig economy itself, and this is backed by data and research, is growing. And again, the skills I mentioned previously with the growth mindset will be even more important when you'll have to be flexible and adaptable to these different jobs. And the resilience and the perseverance you will need to have 2 or 3 jobs at the same time, because again, these gig economy jobs allow you to actually be both an Uber driver by night and a programmer by day if you want to. So there's opportunities and threats to this. What I will raise as an alarm concerning the gig economy is this big debate that is going on at the policy level now when it comes to the benefits, especially the health benefits that companies provide. And I think there's definitely a compromise to be struck in the coming months or years, given that there's a big discrepancy between what you get in terms of benefits as a Uber driver compared to somebody who's employed full time. And I think this discrepancy should decrease, given the importance of both roles. We've seen how important delivery drivers are, or Uber drivers are in the pandemic, and they deserve equal benefits and safety protections, or at least something close to par with what you'd get in a full-time job. So plenty of things going on in the gig economy coming in the next coming years. But again, to sum up, I think it's going to provide opportunity to everybody, not just programmers, but also people doing more menial sort of jobs.
Excellent insights. Thank you, David. Cyrille, would you like to comment?
Yes, I'd like to rebound on these, entrepreneurs. They just don't need to be just, geek, but they also need to understand what's needed. Because if we go back to the business model of Uber, because David was talking about Uber, it's just making sure a technology which is existing, or a service or a product which already exists, is available everywhere for everyone at a price which is lower. So Uberization of the economy is obviously happening everywhere. So what's important, we need to understand when we are entrepreneur, and I was heading 173 countries on digital transformations on a very large organizations, and I decided to lead, to grow my own company. So I know what being an entrepreneur means. And I am not an engineer. I don't have, development skills, but I have everything in my guts to actually develop what I do trust is true and is contributing to a better world or a better servicing. So having this in mind, you need to have two, you need to have two elements. The first is, what are you good at? What do you like? And in this area, what do you miss? If there's an area where you need to invest a lot, among the 13 trends of the fourth industrial revolution, the one which I do think will actually restructure everything is mobility, but not the, but really the mobile technology will change everything you do because it helps you being more visible, quicker. And that's, where you need to invest your energy about. Whatever the product, whatever the service, whatever the offer you give to the world, be mobile and be visible. And then on the other hand, give credibility to what you like. Work on your personal branding. Be visible by the people who are your prospect, even your suspects. They are the people who do not buy from you or don't even know you. So that's very important that you choose on which social media you are present. And when you choose which social media you're present, don't let it go. Don't be present everywhere once in a while. So if you choose to be on LinkedIn on a regular basis. If you want to develop your credibility, Medium, for example, is something, is a blogging area where I have seen massive, knowledge, and I have picked up great experts for the trainings that I'm giving to my clients. Just try to find out your little sparkle and make it glow. That's very important that you understand that in the new world, with that non-safety, big package, small package, the work which may be lost, in a couple of months, what's very important is you understand what you bring and you're not thinking of having the knowledge as a power, but having a knowledge as a basis of collaboration. So for entrepreneurs, what's very important is sharing, be visible, and make sure that you are in continuous learning. David also mentioned that nowadays, with all the MOOCs everywhere, it's easy to learn. You have many learning management systems in organizations or educations which are available for us to learn. But it's not only that, it's also try not learning everything, but learning what's useful for your business. And I do trust, so I'm a very positivist person, and I do trust that there's a place for everybody. If we look at these, let's say emerging economies, we see that there are some organizations, there are some countries who said, well, we lost the train, we have not been able to catch the train of the internet, let's go to mobile. I'm thinking of some of the big countries of Africa who are more developed in mobile technology than we are, in Western countries. So that's, understanding where we can bring our footprint and where we can serve. And that's very important. Thinking of that, if we have that mindset, which is differentiating, Richard Pascal, I don't know if you know about him, he's actually put in place with the couple Sternin, the concept of positive deviance. And I see that, I have seen massive changes in access for education for women and, mortality in prison. So major problems diminishing just because we're changing the way we understand leadership. Leadership doesn't mean powership or management, but it's the reverse approach to leadership. You first identify who are the people who are getting better than others. You try to find out what you learn from them, you collaborate, and then wherever they are in the world, whatever the job is, you ask them to become a leader, to become an example. So lead by the example. And the positive deviance has changed my understanding of what is a leader, whether you are a CEO, a manager, or just, an entrepreneur. So that's very important that we understand that we don't want to be the best, but we want to be the best collaborator. So.
Excellent. So after all, it's all about the mindset and the approach. Understand which direction you want to go and exploit all your resources rationally to its full extent so that it can give you benefit. Just to remind you, we are almost on the verge of closing. So for audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to post in the comment section. And before ending the webinar, I have two aspects which I want to cover. Like we talked about the individuals who are looking for opportunities and the individuals looking for career. What educational institutes or engineering schools are doing to adapt it, to make the students ready to face this post-pandemic world, which is different to when they were enrolled for the course, and now they're going out of the course. It's entirely different, it's disrupted. So what do you think, from your point of view, if you're teaching in any business schools or giving courses, how you personally you are adapting to cope with it, in a nutshell?
Okay, in a nutshell, I just want to say that I have seen a massive change and a great adaptation from business school. I thought would be very, like the laggards in the innovation curve. What we're trying to do is get alert on what's going on, push along into the learning management systems as much as information as we know, readings on a regular basis. The style of teaching has changed since last year. We're now having what we call blended learning, where we have part of the teaching which is face-to-face or in video, but also having the students to tell us what they think, to work on cases. And from there, we also give our own worldviews. And at the end, what I normally do when I work in cases, whether in organizations or in schools, in business schools, I work in collective intelligence. There's not, a right or wrong answer. There's always a collective way to understand a problematic and answer to it, so that everybody can have, their contributions. And that is, a major change. What I also have noticed is that we invite the students to learn more by themselves and share their views, so that we can have an exchange of conversations. And what I do trust is very important is that we need to have more and more organizations involved into the learning, so that they understand how the new generations are thinking and integrate right into their strategy these new, tsunami of knowledge arriving in their organizations. Not trying to teach them, but trying to more, welcome their ideas and their mindset.
Kind of nurturing them. David, your point of view.
Yeah, I've shared an article here in the chat. I'm not sure if the people watching live can also see the chat. The idea is that I've seen, based on my own experience as a student, but also now as a person working with universities and training providers, that the key to better prepare students for the future of work is for universities to collaborate more closely with companies. In the article I shared, the example is taken a bit to the extreme. They just refer Ivy League universities collaborating with the Google and Facebooks of this world, but it can be also down at the local level in a small town, for the local university to collaborate with some of the biggest businesses in the city or the small town. The idea is, I've seen way too many, even top-level universities being stuck in the previous century, and churning graduates who have no relevant skills for the job market, especially if we speak about the technology industry and the industry which is changing the fastest. It's been already studied by McKinsey and other organizations that in computing science, there is a high risk that you might start a coding language in the first year of university, and by year 5, so when you graduate, it's going to be less relevant. I have friends who've been in this situation. So without working more closely, universities with companies, without this happening, there's going to be an even bigger chasm between what we are taught in school and what's needed in the job market. So yeah, I will leave it like this, because I think this is the solution that, again, could tackle the biggest problem, which is this big gap between education and employment.
True, rightly said. So we have had so many topics, so many insights, and so many information to gather, and hopefully the audience will be able to benefit from it. We are almost on the verge of closing the webinar. So I'd like to thank you, first of all, for this excellent insights and taking the time out and contributing towards, not only towards our benefit, but also contributing towards the society and community and the aspiring candidates and the students. Before closing, I would love if you give some positive message, some insights from your side to everyone. David, go ahead.
I would give the message I also gave to myself, in a sense, which is to never stop learning. And this way you'll be, in a sense, safe regardless of the changes that might come, or the future pandemic and other disruptions that might come. If you continuously learn and take care of your own personal development and don't expect necessarily a government or a company to do so, you'll be in a much better position to overcome any adversity. So never stop learning is my message.
Excellent. Cyrille?
I do trust that David, has given one of the most important advice ever: never stop learning. I do trust that Vivatech, who's running at this moment, there's from Madines, who's a nice way to understand the news. Linked to digital, they've mentioned that continuous learning, soft skills, gamification of motivation, and data sciences were actually the elements that we're looking in the future. I do trust that whether you come from a scientific background or from a business or from political, philosophical, whatever you come from, just try to learn things which are around you, areas of knowledge, and dare be different and dare change if what you're doing doesn't suit you, because we are always better when we do something we love than something we have to. So dare be yourself.
Be daring and never stop learning. At least that's my mantra moving forward. So thank you so much. And I wish you all a nice evening. Take care and all the best for your all future endeavors. And hopefully if opportunity prevails, that I will be able to interact and collaborate again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Take care. Stay safe.
Yeah.
Yes, stay safe. Bye.
Bye.